The third runner-up and the recipient of an additional $15,000 in scholarship is Taylor Tyson, Florida.
Third runner-up at Miss America. I want to know what that moment was like, because you just made everyone so proud. Personally, you're my Miss America. I thought you were going to win, but Nia's amazing. She's amazing, but I just thought you were going to win. But third runner-up at Miss America, still pretty flippin' phenomenal, and you got to go home and be Miss Florida, so it was a win-win. I just do want to know, though, because you did tell me something interesting about this, that I want to know what happens in the moments after you guys have your top 5, because I know you guys get whisked away somewhere and you all have to go to the press conference, and then you don't really get to see your family immediately. So I want to know what the moments after the broadcast is over are like, and like what happens then.
Yes. So that was like a flurry, obviously, of emotions, because it's over and it ends so quickly. Like, it's just, everything is leading up to that moment. And then the show is over and the producers are like moving everything on stage and everybody's like out of there. And so Nia, as you mentioned, the winner goes to have a press conference, and their family obviously is there to watch, along with, I think the judges are there and the directors and the board and everything like that. But the other top 5 members don't go to that. Instead, we are put in a separate transport. And so we had like a big banquet or a party for all of our friends and family after the pageant. And that's for all the contestants. So that's for everybody. So everybody's family and friends go to, I think it was at Caesar's Palace this year, or my year, I don't remember exactly. But that sounds right. So anyway, the top 5 gets reintroduced at the banquet, which is very nice. And, we come out with our flowers and everything, and we get the special honor of being reintroduced before we go back out to our family.
The fact that they do something for you guys too, because I'm not just saying this. Being top 5 at Miss America is an incredible accomplishment that I feel should be capitalized on. So that makes me happy to hear that you guys.
Yeah, it was very sweet, and like we were all excited. Like, that was really nice, obviously. But the so not only does Nia, the Miss America, go to a press conference, but they kind of like fix you up again, I think, as Miss America. So like, they do a couple of different things. They do pictures, they do a little fix up, they do a press conference, and then she gets taken to the same place everybody else was, but a little bit later. And we, unfortunately, for the top 5, all of the other contestants got there like maybe an hour earlier, and they could be with their families and friends the whole time. And we were sequestered in a little room off to the side until Nia arrived, because we had to be introduced at the same time as she did. So I felt like I was in there for an eternity, but it was just like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, that we were kind of waiting. And it was hard, because like, your family's on the other side of that wall, and I hadn't seen them in days.
It's already so late at night too.
Yeah. And you're exhausted, like mentally and emotionally, you're tired. And then I always feel that like, it's all about momentum, and the moment you sit and relax, it's really hard to like get back up again and like do the whole thing. And then, so to sit after all of that adrenaline kind of like came crashing down, and I was still sick, and I was like just tired, to sit there and then to like get back up and be reintroduced, and then everybody says hi to you all over again. I was so grateful. I had so many incredible people there. I wish that I was a little bit more present. I barely remember a lot of it, because felt like such a whirlwind. Like, people would get and hug me and take pictures, and I was just like, I remember being very happy that everybody was there, and I hugged probably like 50, 80 people or whatever, but I don't remember like the interactions, I guess, because it was just really, really exhausting. And I know a lot of the other girls felt the same way. Right. But yeah, it was a little bit hard to be separated that extra little bit of time, but it was all right. I mean, I got to have dinner with my parents, even though it was like after midnight.
I'm sure they were so proud. And I do wonder though, did you have your phone back there? Like, when you were waiting, like, were you allowed to have your phone? Because I'm sure the influx of messages you got must have been like insane in that moment.
I don't remember. That's a really good question. So we were allowed to have our phones backstage while we competed, but only at certain times. Because, at that point they were trying to do, like, they wanted us to kind of give people backstage look into it, which I thought was really nice and I
Yeah.
thought was cool, because, you know, we had followers and people who were interested, and I'm sure they would love to see that. But at a certain time, we had to like put them back in little pockets. They checked that everything's there and everything. And I think that we must have had our phones at that point, because I don't remember, like, I don't know what the reason would be that we wouldn't have been allowed to have them. I'm sure that like mine was like dead or something like that. But yeah, I remember we must have had them at that point.
It's just so interesting to hear like what that's like, because once the broadcast is over, it's like, no, I don't really know if people wonder much what happens, but that's so interesting. And long story short, I mean, you just represented your state so well. You did. Everyone was incredibly proud. I was just so proud to know you. I was just in awe of you. And clearly, I mean, the amount of, I'm obsessed over it. It's clear to see that I just would love to one day be in your position and to have a performance of that caliber. So I commend you. And your year as Miss Florida was just an incredibly iconic year. And as I'm winding down to the last few questions, as you reflect on that, I want to know, what is one thing you wish you knew before your year as Miss Florida?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess it would be how different every day would be. I think that there is this idea, especially when we compete, because I think that it's natural to kind of idealize everything because we want this title so much and it means so much to us on a lot of different levels. So it's easy to like think of it as, and it is a dream job in a way, but that doesn't mean that every day is very structured or that every day is the same. You're going to have good days and bad days. Some days you might go to like 4 appearances in one, and there might be like a week where you don't do anything. And it's kind of difficult to adjust to that, because for me at least, I felt guilty when I wasn't doing that much on days that I wasn't as busy. I felt like, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm like a bad Miss Florida. And the truth is, you're a title holder for a whole year, and some days just aren't going to be that busy, and it's not your fault necessarily. It just is that way. You know, the way that events and things get scheduled, there's so many different elements that go into it. And then some days are going to be crushed together and you have to rush from place to place. You're going to wish that you didn't have that much to do that day. And there are certain things that are hard about being Miss Florida that I knew, and I did try to prepare myself for. Like, you know, sometimes you're going to be exhausted and just like kind of want to rest and everything, but that last appearance that you have that day could make a really big difference in like a little kid that is the only time they're ever going to meet a Miss Florida, and you have to be just as 100% on for them as you were at the beginning of the day when you were fresh-faced and like ready to go. So those kind of things, that takes a toll, but it's about, again, it's about endurance and about mental strength, and also like I think it's important to stay very humble, because it's important to remember like how you felt when you first won and just how grateful you were that you would be like, oh, I would do anything like for this and like to keep this and everything. And
Right.
I think it's important to keep that attitude and that energy. And it's harder than you'd think, just because it's like, it's a roller coaster year. So that's harder to do than it sounds. But you know, you can do it. It's doable. But yeah, it was an awesome year that I wouldn't trade for the world. Like you learn so much as you compete, and then you learn new and different things when you're a title holder, but they're very, very related. They're very similar. It's about, I think, developing who you are as a person and being, you know, the best you that you can be. And that is going to look different. That means that every title holder is going to be a different kind of title holder, but that's a good thing.
Right. And when you are traveling, I mean, this is a grueling year of travel. Like you said, it's just sometimes you're going to 4 different places in one day, and that could rack up a lot of miles and a lot of time. And so I'm wondering, did you usually have a companion with you? Like, I know you and your mother are very close. Did she travel with you often, or were you usually on your own?
So I was lucky that my mom was able to come with me to a lot of different appearances and events. You know, there were changes at the Miss America level, but there were also changes, as you know, in Miss Florida within our own organization. And so for that reason, a couple of different things were in flux in terms of traveling companions and, you know, who was going where and what was going on and everything. So that was a little bit rocky at times too. But I think it's important not only to not go yourself to a lot of things just for safety reasons, and like it's always nice to have somebody else there with you, but also like you mentioned how important social media is when you're a title holder. You need pictures and
Of course.
documentation of everything. And you can't just like go to events as a title holder and put all your stuff down and ask a stranger to take your photo all the time. So it's important to have somebody there with you and somebody that you're really comfortable with and like kind of know like, okay, maybe it's time to leave, or like you need a break, like whatever. So that kind of thing is really important. And then sometimes there were events that I did myself. But like I said, I was lucky that my mom was able to come with me to a great deal of things.
We love Stacey Tyson. She's a queen. It's clear to see why her daughter's in Miss Florida. She looks like she could win Miss Florida. But
She
that
does.
is amazing. And before I touch on what you're doing now and your incredible career and your schooling in Pennsylvania and what that was like, my last question related to Miss Florida is, when you give up your crown, because it's a year of hard work, it's great being Miss Florida. It's not always easy being Miss Florida. I understand that's a reality. But is that hard, letting that go? Or were you ready? Because I was thinking about, and I was wondering, because I remember you posted, you were back home, I think, and you had on this like necklace someone gave you. It was like a little blue stone, and you wrote in the caption like, now I'm taking some much needed rest, I'm taking time for myself. And you look so happy, and I wondered, is she genuinely happy? Like, does she miss it, or is she just so relieved to finally have that time? I just wonder what that's like.
It was a little bit of both. You don't realize the kind of toll that it takes just on your energy and your like mental health. I don't mean that in a bad way, like it's bad for you. It certainly isn't, but there's a reason that title holders are just title holders for a year, because it's arduous work.
Right.
It requires a lot. So it's not just you going to events, you have to promote the organization in every way possible. So it's utilizing social media, it's, reaching out to people, being available, and that kind of thing where you have less, boundaries, I guess, where people have a little bit more access to you. I had 2 Instagram accounts at the time. I mean, like I'm all,
Of course, I remember.
yeah, we remember that phase. But it's like, it took a lot out of me. And I want, that's the way I wanted to do it. I would never change how I did it, but it was also nice to be like, this isn't my job anymore. Somebody else is just as excited to do it, and they're going to do a great job with it. And I get to focus on the next chapter of my life. And I remember how important it was for me to have law school all lined up and ready to go, because I was worried that I would have this time of kind of sadness or feeling of loss, because I went from something taking up all of my time and energy to now not having the same kind of like goal and consuming thing in my life.
Right.
And so I was really happy that I was about to go to law school in like 2.5 months. So that took up a lot of focus for me. And that really helped me because I was looking forward to a new chapter, and it was going to be very different. That being said, it also feels so different to not be in the whole pageant world. I'm in law school. I study all day long. I feel like that's like defines my life. And the workload can be quite overwhelming. And I feel, and sometimes like I joke all the time. I'm like, I feel like I'm in hiding, like I'm not, performing. I'm not doing speaking gigs or anything like that. And part of that obviously is due to COVID. But it's just been a much different time in my life and a big shift. But yeah, I mean, it's a new interesting chapter, but I'm halfway through. So
Taylor, you are killing me here, because you keep bringing up all these great points that makes me want to ask you more. Because I'm just genuinely curious at this point. I mean, I'm asking this for me, like not just my listeners, but for me too, because I want to know. You mentioned that you're no longer in the pageant world, which yes, that is true. But I'm wondering, the answer probably will be no. Would you ever consider doing Pennsylvania, USA? Because you could win. You could totally win.
It's so funny because I think about that. I think about it, but then I shut it down within like 30 seconds of thinking about it.
No, don't do it.
Okay, so hear me out. Like, I miss the part of competing because I really think it forces you to be like on top of your game. Yeah. And that's good for anybody. That is good for any man, woman, whatever, like, because if you're at the top of your game, you're like firing on all cylinders, that shines through in every part of your life. And I truly believe that when I was competing and when I was doing Miss Florida, it raised other parts of my life up that I didn't even know that was happening, but it really does work like that. So I miss that part of it because, again, like I mentioned, my life is now kind of defined by law school because that's how much time and energy it takes up. And I kind of miss being that kind of person that had, you know, equal energy in all of these different facets of my life. And, you know, luckily I still, you know, feel that I'm somewhat involved in all these other things, which is great for me. But I also miss playing the piano as much. I miss performing, you know, I miss all of those things. So it definitely comes into my mind where I think that maybe I could do that. But at a certain point, I kind of decided that this was it for me in Miss Florida. Like I accomplished everything I could dream of accomplishing in this amazing, crazy world of pageant competitions. And, you know, I'm really grateful for it. And to me, here's another thing, like you know this, I took 2 years in between graduating undergrad and going to law school. 1 year I took to work. I worked several jobs and saved money. And then my second year was when I won Miss Florida. Right. So, you know, that long break put me, you know, obviously older than I thought I was going to be when I finished law school and everything, but it also really ignited a passion in me to have more of momentum going into my law career. And so for me, it's kind of like full speed ahead to that. And as much as I miss pageants and as much as I miss competing, you know, anything that would kind of slow that down, you know, for me starting to be an attorney, I don't know if I can do it again.
But I understand your answer. I do, because it's not like you're like just like lazing around. I mean, you're like at a top institution, and when we were chatting before, you mentioned how this is your hardest year, and I'm about to ask you about that and about, you know, your special job this summer and everything you've done. But I don't want to accept that you're not going to do it, because you could so win. But I mean, I understand you're in full-blown career mode and you've accomplished so much, like you said, and it's just, you're so young and so gorgeous, and I just want you to do it all over again so I can relive the iconicness. But once I force Taylor to put back up her social media, I can just stalk her and relive it that way. So now that we found that solution.
Let's take one thing at a time. Do you worry about my Instagram next?
I know. And then I'm going to fly down to Pennsylvania, and I'm going to have an intervention, and I'm going to like tell you need to compete. But don't worry, guys, we'll work on it. Again, comment down below how you have suggestions of how I can force Taylor to do these things. So now you're in law school at Villanova, and you moved from Florida to Pennsylvania. I remember watching your moving blogs, and your mom is such a queen. Like, I just remember her like being so done, and you were like constantly vlogging. She's like, get the camera out of my face, which is like literally my mom.
She's very down to business.
I know, I love her. I think she's iconic. And Frank, of course, just the whole Tyson family is just so flippin' funny. But anyway, so I remember that, and law school is incredibly challenging. My sister is a division chief of homicide for Miami-Dade. She went to law, so I have been around someone who went through that whole crazy, grueling process of law school. And pretty much anyone I talk to that's been to law school is like, it's hell on earth. It's great. It's awful. So you are going through that very challenging academic, rigorous schedule. And then this summer, I'd love you to touch on the job that you had with a judge in Pennsylvania. I know you can't discuss specifics like cases, of course, and all that, but if you could just touch on what that experience was like, I'd love to hear all about your Pennsylvania lifestyle and what it's brought to you.
Sure. So, you know, obviously moving from Florida to Pennsylvania, that was a big move. My dad's side of the family is actually he's from Pennsylvania. He's from the same kind of area that I go to law school now. So I do have family there, which has been great. So it's not like I went there, you know, without any kind of family. I have my aunts and uncles and cousins, which I see as much as I can. Not as much as I like, but as much as I can. And yeah, I absolutely love Villanova. It was 100% the right choice for me. And like you mentioned, the summer after my first year, so last summer, I was able to be an intern for a federal judge in Philadelphia in the Eastern District, Judge Kenny, which was an incredible experience. I didn't realize that was even something that was a possibility for me, you know, and preparing for law school, I was thinking, oh, you can only work for a judge, you know, after you graduate. And so that was new for me. And my dad, you know, he is 76, so he went to law school quite a while ago. So he didn't know that either. And it was just an awesome expect that I could, after.
He looks great, by the way. He does not look 76.
Exactly. And so, you know, after my first 2 semesters in law school, you know, I was able to have that incredible experience. It was a ton of research, a ton of writing. But I was really lucky because Judge Kenny is extremely hands-on, and he loved to discuss and teach. So for me and my fellow interns, it was great for us because he was very communicative, and we could kind of like bounce different theories and things off of him, which I was so grateful for, because I could totally see a judge being like, don't bother me with these interns, whatever. But he was just very hands-on, and I was able to do a lot of work with him and his like full-time clerks who are practicing attorneys. So it was an awesome experience. I was supposed to be, obviously completely in person, and go to the courthouse every day. We ended up being mostly remote, but I was able to, go in to see a couple of hearings and things like that. So I was grateful for that. And a bunch of things were actually done on Zoom, so I could watch them and, kind of take notes and see how what I took away from it. So it was awesome. I was just mostly excited about that experience because I wanted to see what was effective litigation and what wasn't. I wanted to see it like firsthand, and I was able to do that, especially in, briefs and the writing styles. And I didn't really realize that I would learn so much from that, but I did, absolutely. One of the classes that I loved in my first year was civil procedure. And that's one of those classes that like most people hate, but I didn't. I had a really great professor for it. So it was nice because I could actually like apply some of the concepts that we learned. So that felt good to feel like I had some kind of context and basis for what I was doing. And I learned so much. Really, really grateful for that internship. And now the fun part is looking for a job for this coming summer. So wish me luck.
I am just so proud of you and everything you've done. Like, I have no doubt you are going to achieve amazing things. You're in the second half of your second year of law school now, so you're almost done, really. And I'm just in awe of all you do, and I just can't wait to see what's next for you. I just know you're going to do so many amazing things, and I have no doubt I'll be interviewing you again in the future, asking you about all the amazing things you're going to do. And now my last question is here. I mean, I've asked you so many questions. Do you think I've asked you enough? I think I could write a book on you by now.
We do this all day. I mean,
honestly,
pageant girls together who like to talk and, clear your schedule. That's all I have to say.
Literally. Obviously, we should have a show on Bravo or something. I would.
Seriously.
I would personally love that. But I want to know, you have had so many wonderful experiences throughout this organization and because of this organization. And I want to know, Taylor, what is the silver lining from this whole journey? What was the best part of everything to you?
Well, I would say that really, and not to like bring everything back to that one answer, but it was really how I chose to live my life. And it's that every setback is a setup for your comeback. It's so true. It's like, I heard that in church, and it just always stuck with me because everybody has setbacks, and you can call them failures. You can call them whatever you want to call them. Things don't always go our way. They don't go to plan. But if you can see it as actually an opportunity to propel you to something greater and better than you ever imagined, that is so powerful. And if you can like live your life that way, you will, I think that you will achieve more than you ever thought you could. It's a way of living. It's a way of thinking that just kind of switches around, taking a negative and really trying to turn it into a positive. So I am very grateful that I got to like say that because it meant so much to me, and it still does, honestly. And one of the things that I think is powerful about competing is that you can constantly take a look at yourself and see who you want to be. It really, like, pageants allow you to take stock in your life because it shows what you value. It shows who you are as a well-rounded person. And you can decide if that's if where you are is where you want to be. You can decide to change. Was it Fitzgerald who said, like, it's never too late to start over? And it's really, really true. It's never too late to remake yourself and to be who you want to be. So I find that kind of thing very encouraging because it's easy to feel defeated or hopeless with a failure or a setback or any kind of like thing that just doesn't go our way. But yeah, that's I guess my silver lining.
Well, I absolutely think that you are just incredible all around. You know that. That's no secret. And I think that anybody that listens to this, whether they are involved in pageantry or not, just can gain so much wisdom from your journey and how hard you've worked and the great amount of perseverance that, you know, we see as a constant theme throughout your journey to the crown. And so I think you are incredible in every way. And I just want to thank you so much. I mean, of course, you know, I'll be contacting you in the future for advice, but I will definitely, if I ever feel like I am lost or need some Taylor Tyson wisdom, now I have this recording to go back to at all times. And anyone that listens will also be getting your advice as well. And I just appreciate you being here so much. I mean, obviously I've taken up so much of your time, but you have just been absolutely wonderful. And I just can't thank you enough for sharing your story with me and allowing me to pick your brain quite a bit, but it has been an honor to get to hear what it was like for you the entire journey, and I'm really, really happy I got to talk to you, and I'm so happy I got to hear what it was like for you.
No, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I am just so proud of you, and
Thank you.
I see a lot of myself in you. I see, I see amazing, great things in your future. Not that that was me, but I see even greater for you. So really, thank you for all the sweet things that you have said to me, and I'm always here. And yeah, I'm really excited for this whole channel and this whole idea that you have. I think it's beautiful, and I think that it's so needed in this time. So great job.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And guys, if you take nothing else away from this interview, take away what Taylor just said, that she sees a lot of herself in me. So anyway, you guys, you can, well, actually, Taylor Tyson's not on social media right now, but she does have a Facebook. I know that. Total stalker. Well, I wish her happy birthday. That's the only reason why I know that.
I'm very old school. I have Facebook. I'm like a retiree. I have Facebook, and I also have LinkedIn. I just took my Instagram down temporarily, but it's been a while.
Well, this will be on Facebook, Taylor, and it will be on YouTube and eventually on the podcast app. So don't worry, you'll have plenty of ways to access this. But you guys, please keep up with me on social media. I'll put all my social medias down below, and of course, I will give you updates on Taylor Tyson, obviously, and you'll see this posted pretty much everywhere, so don't worry. But Taylor, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm elated that I got the chance to talk to you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. I know it's going to be amazing.
Ditto.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into my channel today. Your support means the world to me. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel and like and comment on my videos, because your support is what fuels my ability to make content. I'll see you guys next time, and once again, thanks for joining me for another episode of The Silver Lining. Love you guys. Bye!